All right, to just give everybody a little bit of backstory, and I'm going to do it quickly. All right. Typically, when we have these advisory committee meetings, they last about an hour. All right. Now, I used to go into St. Louis for them back in the day when I was going into campus every day. But for the last couple, they've said, no, that's fine. Go ahead and be remote. So I did that today. Now, normally they get anywhere from 12 to 15 companies that come in, and it's a spirited discussion, and I mean that in a good way. It's never anything bad. But people will talk about, oh, you should be teaching this, no, you should be teaching this, kind of an idea. All right. Well, long story short, they had about a quarter of the number of companies that usually come in. So literally there were like 3 or 4 there. So we outnumbered them. All right. And I still did it remote. There was one of the instructors from the Wentzville campus. He was remote as well. And it was an interesting discussion. That said, it was much more hardware based. There was very little in there on software. There was one employer who did go in and mention that they have software people who come in and write security code, and he mentioned a few other things. All right. But even with that, it was like, I don't deal with those people type of thing. So, like I said, it was interesting and it got over earlier than I thought it would. But Evan was the one who said it's going to be probably till at least 1:30. That's why I changed the timing. All right. Well, it was closer. It was just after 1. So I've been doing some work to try to get ahead in my other class. So as it says, today it's going to be a short period because we're starting late anyway. Like I said, Evan and I try to talk on a regular basis. And I know one thing that he did when he taught this class last that I didn't do was to talk about the end of the chapter exercises. All right. And you might say, well, why are we even doing that? They give us the answers. That isn't important at all. But what is important is an understanding of what's going on, because that can be a really good stepping stone to go from those exercises at the end of the chapter. There's only one at the end of 6. Sometimes there's a couple. All right. And then go in and start working on the homework in the labs, etc. So today, that's all I'm going to do. And like I said, it won't take long. We may be done in a half an hour. I don't know. Tomorrow, the plan is as soon as we start class, we're going to start going over projects 6.1 and 6.2. Now, I don't think they'll take that long, just because 6.1 will take a while. But for 6.2, they just want you to change around some of the routing. It's really the same project. All right. Now, I don't have a problem with you doing those two as the same project. All right, I really don't. When we get done with that, we'll discuss the case study for chapter 6. And again, there's almost nothing to that, but we'll talk about it anyway. So tomorrow's class may be a little shorter. We'll see. Now, on Thursday, and many of you are aware of this, if not all of you, the third Thursday of every month, we have a meeting from 12 o'clock until about 1:45 where all of the IT instructors get together. All right. This will be the third Thursday because it's the 21st. All right. So on Thursday, we won't start class until 1 o'clock. So again, we'll start later. But on Thursday, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend I'm student Jeff Scott, and I'm coming in to take hot number 2. And I'm going to do it from scratch. All right. And the only reason I'm doing that is a couple students appeared to have problems with this. Now, you already know this. I'm behind on grading. I promise you, I will catch up by this week. Everything will be graded. All right. Friday will be our typical lab day. And next Monday, we'll start on chapter 7, which is razor views. Okay. And we'll go on that on Monday, and we'll see how long that takes. It's not a short chapter. It's about 50 pages. All right. I again then want to go over the end of the at the end of the chapter exercise, and then go over the exercise that they have you do in chapter 7. I don't know if we can do that in one day or if it'll take 2 days. My guess is it'll probably take 2 days. All right. Then what I'm going to do is I've got to make sure by that time I've got your next test written up. Your next test will be on chapters uh, really 1 through 7, but more 6 and 7. All right. So the idea is I'm going to give you, and I'll clean it up first, but I'm going to give you all the data for all of the tables that are in there. We've got 6 tables and we've only been dealing with 1 or 2 so far. Just the categories table and the products table. But there is an orders table, there's an employees table, and there are more. So I'm going to give you all of those, and I'm going to ask that you update your bike shop context file to add that data. I'll give you the seed data because some of them have got quite a bit of data in them. I'll probably even cut it down. All right, because like the order details, they've got like 3,000 records in there. That would be ridiculous, I think, to have you copy that in. Maybe we'll just put in 100 or something like that. I don't know right now. All right, but we'll do that. So that'll be part of it. And making the routes work will be another part of it. So in other words, right now, the only thing that you had to do in there in the first test was to get the product stuff up and working. Well, remember, there's 5 other links in there. Like I said, not just products, but there was products, there's categories, there's orders, there's order details, there's employees, etc. So you'll be getting those to work as well. And I'm not sure what from chapter 7 I'll put in, but you can bet that by sometime next week you will get your next test. Now, I am not at all against giving you a few days to work on the test. So it's possible, I don't know right now, but it's quite possible maybe I'll even give it out on Wednesday if we get to that point, and I'll make it due like Friday at midnight or something like that. And I'll give you Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to work on it. Some people I can just tell are like this, they're catching on. And they probably can do this in a matter of a few hours. So one class period would be enough. Other people, I believe at least, are somewhat struggling, judging by the fact that they're emailing me and asking me questions, etc. And that's what I'm here for. So I have no problem with that whatsoever. All right. But I do want to make sure people get this stuff and that it makes sense to you. All right. So after we get to that point, then, all right. So right now we've gone through the first 5 chapters, and now we're through chapter 6. And then we'll do 7. All right. You can pretty much know that after 7, we'll do 8 and 9. Then we'll have another test. Then we'll do 10, 11, and 12. And then we'll have our last test for the semester. So we might have our last test by the time we're in week 9 or something like that. But what you are going to be required to do, and I'm still working on it on my end, is to do a project. All right. And believe me, I'll give you what you need to do it. But we will still, if we can keep up that, or let's even say it's in week 10 or so, and we're up to this bookstore website, that would be great because we can still go over 14, 15, 16, and 17, not have to worry so much about even doing a lot of homework on those. But I want to give you plenty of time because I want this project that you do, it's going to be worth quite a few points. All right, like 3 or 4 tests or whatever, but I want it to be professional. All right, for some of you, this is your last class. And I want that to be something that not only do you possibly put into your um, electronic portfolio, but you want to put it in your electronic portfolio. All right. It's one of those things that you want to highlight. All right. So just like I said, so you know what the heck is going on. All right. So yeah, I'm jumping to the end to chapter 7 so I can back up and go into chapter 6. All right. So as it says in here, this is the end of the chapter exercise for chapter 6. And as it says, you'll review the essential skills for working with routing. I'm taking for granted, I'm not even asking you, Grant, but I'm taking for granted that everybody realizes that a couple days ago, I did 2 lectures. I did one that I sent to you, and it was a private video, and I did another one that was a public video. The private video, I went back and I redid problem number 1 from your first hands-on test. But when I did it, I changed it around in that I pretty much followed the instructions that were on the test. What I mean is what most of you did, and I did it on the key too. All right. What most of you did, and I did as well, is even though you were asked to like make a controller, for example, for that distance converter controller, most people made one and put nothing in it. They put all the code in their home controller. I did the same thing, but I went back and redid it where I put the code in the distance converter controller. So my home controller is almost empty. All it has is an index method in there that basically just returns the view. All right, your opening view. I did that, and I went back into the program.cs file and I added a second route at the end of that file. And since I added that route and it came up first, your default route should always be last. But since that route came up first, boom, it came right up into the distance converter. All right. Plus, I put a clear button on there, and you can do that if you want, but you don't have to. All right. So please look at that, because what I am asking you to do for Sunday of this week is 2 things. Number 1, the written test, the the written test, the end of chapter exercises, your labs, whatever you want to call them, and the homework for chapter 6, where we are right now, and to redo both those problems from hot number 1, but do them the right way. In other words, create a route, etc. The first one, the whole thing is worth 50 points. I made the first one worth 15, and you can just parrot what I did if you want. That's okay, but it is getting people into the mindset where we're working with multiple routes. And that was the idea behind this. All right. So hopefully that makes some sense. If it does not, please email me and let me know. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do exactly what they tell us to do right here. So I'm going to go onto my C drive here, and I'm going to grab the one in here. I'm going to grab the student download. All right. And these are, again, you've got the solutions and the starts. So I'm going to do the exercise solution. I'm sorry, the exercise start. Sure, I booked the right one. Yeah. Exercise start. And I'm going to look at the one here for chapter 6. As they say, it's called CH06E1 routing practice. So I'm going to bring that one up, and I'm just going to go through the steps that are in here. When I asked Evan about this, you know, he made it sound as if, and we had this talk a while ago, that by going over these exercises at the end of the chapter, it might have helped some of the people who were struggling in the class and didn't maybe were having a hard time during the chapters. All right. So, which is, like I said, why I'm doing it. All right. So I'm going to bounce back and forth here. So the first thing we're told to do in here, oops, I got to get back to my book. I'm sorry. So the first thing we're told to do is to open it. Open the default route. So I'm going to open up program.cs. And of course, theirs is in 2 files. So I'm going to open up this one as well. But the point is, when you look in here, okay, this is referred to as endpoint routing. All right. Come version about 3.5, I think it was, they changed it around so you did endpoint routing like this. Previously, it was really a pain in the butt because you had to go and call these different methods and do a bunch of other stuff. All right. So what this is saying right now is we only have one route, our default route. So again, if we created another route in here, we would want to put that route that we created before this one. It's kind of like working with a switch statement where you always put the default on the end. All right, the same kind of thing right here. Since this is home controller, it assumes we're working with an index method, and it assumes that we've got an ID, but that ID is optional. Now, again, all of that should make sense to everybody. Okay. And again, when I asked you to go back and redo test number one, I show you exactly how to put the route. It isn't hard. All right. But the point is, typically, as your programs get more and more complex, you're going to have more and more routes in here. All right. And that's what we'll want. Okay. So, oops, don't need that or that. All right. So let's just continue on then. All right. So open it. Notice that it includes that. Okay. Open the home controller class in the controllers folder and view its code. All right. All right. Says note the action method displays text that says home, and privacy action displays privacy. All right. So in other words, what they have done in here is a couple things. First of all, they really cleaned up the home controller. All right. There's no logging in here, etc. Now, the other thing, and I don't know if we talked about it in this chapter or we talk about it in the next one. I don't remember. I think it was in this chapter. But when you return content like this, that literally just is returning static text. So when we run this program, what we should see on the screen is the word home. All right. If we go over to privacy, we should see the word privacy. Let's see if indeed that's the case. So there's home. All right. And if we go here, I don't know if it's going to want home or not. So we'll put that in. There's privacy. Now, putting this in, and I believe you all know this, but I'm saying it anyway, putting this in, which is just HTTPS :// localhost : and whatever your random port is /. Notice I get home. I get home if I say that. I get home if I put after that home. And I get home if I put all that in and put in index on the end. All right. All of them work. What that just did was it showed the fact that by default, unless told otherwise, the system is assuming you are working with the home controller. All right. Also, the system is assuming that unless you tell it otherwise, you're working with the index method. All right. Now, if I come here and do this and type in privacy, all right, notice it says that the page cannot be found. All right. It's confused. All right. It needs to have the word home in there. It's not smart enough to say, oh, we're linking that one up, even though there's only one route in here. All right. And we'll see this in just a second in the exercises. But again, putting in home / now it all works. Everything is cool. All right. So as it says, run the app, start your browser, and put in this. Yes, should display home. It did. Enter URLs as it says in here. These all work. Those are the ones we just put in. In fact, we put in more than that. All right. Then it says in the home controller class, view the code for the display action method. Note that this method accepts a string parameter named ID. So let's There it is. All right. So notice now if we don't supply anything, we should get back the message on our screen that says no ID supplied. However, if we put in a number or a string or whatever, as long as we put something in there, that should be returned. And because of the fact that it is a string, we can put in numbers, we can put in letters, etc. But if we call this and we come here and we put in home display, no ID supplied. Pretty much, I think at least, what everybody would expect. But if I come in here and just put in 123, ID 123. And again, since it's a string, if I came in here and put in ABC, whoops, screwed that up. ABC 123, it takes that as well. All right. And again, if you're thinking to yourself, well, yeah, this all makes sense. It's fundamental. Yeah, it is. But again, we just keep building on stuff in every chapter, which is the reason I've decided to go this route. All right, no pun intended there. So says add an action method that uses the default route. All right, in the home controller class, add the following action method. When you do, make sure to declare a parameter of type int with the name ID and a default value like this. So let's look at what's in there and then we'll key it in. All right. So this is going to be a brand new method. As you can see, it returns an iAction result. All right. And it is expecting an ID to be passed in. But if we don't pass in an ID, it'll default to 0. All right. And I believe if we put something in there that's non-numeric, it'll just convert it to 0. I could be wrong. We'll check that out in a minute. But if you look at this right now, what do we have? String, content, string. So it says counting down and then there's a line break. All right. Then we go what? We're going backwards. So if I put a 10 in there, it's going to go from 10 greater than or equal to 0. So it should say 10, then on the next line 9, then on the next line 8, all the way down to 0. And that's what should be returned. All right. So let's go and put that in and again, verify that indeed that is correct. So I'm going to just key it in right here. When they do this too, when they return content like this is me speaking. This is not in your book. But as far as I'm concerned, most of the time you're going to use something like returning content is when you're testing. In other words, you haven't maybe written all of your methods yet. And it's kind of like, um, when if you've ever had that where you go and you write a method and you just put like a print statement in that method type of thing. It's kind of what we're doing here. Right? That should be everything as far as I can tell. So I'm going to grab that. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. And I'm going to go back into our program. And down on the bottom, after our display, I'm going to add this. All right. Now, content string, content string. Then I must have done something wrong. So let's just take a quick look. Oh, return content string. That makes sense. I was going to say it didn't look right because that's a string and that's an I action result. So it didn't look right. All right. So we're returning content, then in parentheses, content string, like that. Okay. So file, save all. We'll run it. Now, a couple things that everybody should be able to understand. First of all, if I come in here and I come in and I do a home countdown, all right, says counting down in 0. That should make sense because it is using the default value. So if we don't put anything in, it's not breaking, in other words. Well, that's a good thing. Let's run it again. All right, so we know it's covered if we put nothing in there. But what if we come in here and go to home countdown, and I'm going to put in here hello. All right. It's converted it. It says this basically the integer value of hello is 0. All right. And if we do it one more time, and I think this is the example they use in the book, they just run it and they put in the number 10. And there you go. All right. So again, as far as I can tell, at least, everything appears so far to be working, and it's all working the way we want and think that it would work. All right, so we just did all this. All right. So as it says, run the app. Yep, we did that. It should go down from 10 to 0. It did that. All right. Now it says here, add a route attribute immediately above countdown that looks like this. All right. Then run the app. Okay. That calls countdown and call it like this. Now, what we're doing there in step 11, all right, is we're adding a route attribute. So in other words, we're decorating the same kind of way that we decorated, the same way that we decorated when we were in our models. All right. But now what we're saying here, all right, it says we only have to type the name of the action right here, which is going to be countdown followed by the number. All right. So it's basically what it's saying by putting this in here is, hey, you don't need to include home. We're just expecting that's the way that it's going to be. All right. So again, let's put that in there. So again, I just want to grab that line of code. And you notice in here, we have two sets of brackets. One set that surrounds basically everything, and the other set that is surrounding the word action. All right. And I think I'm missing a paren right there. All right. So let's see after we do the decorating, all right, how that works. So just like that. It's always good news when you do that, you move off and you don't get an error message. All right. This is still saying when you look at it, all right, this is still saying that the ID is not mandatory. All right. Because we're checking for it. Well, let's just run it. All right. So it says now we should be able to just come in here and put in /countdown. And you can see that it works. Or /countdown again with a number in it. And that works as well. All right. If we come in here and we put in again, nothing, or we put in hello, we again get 0. All right. Now, this may not seem like a real big thing, but one of the things that it's saying to me is there are some smarts built into this. All right. And there are other things that we can do in here other than just come in and decorate like this. And you're going to learn more of them as we move on throughout the semester. All right. So we did 11, we did 12, we did 13. All right. Now it says, now you should get an error message that the page you requested cannot be found. That's if you put home there. All right. So let's do that. And hopefully, at least, it makes sense why that's the case. So if I come through here and I put in /home /countdown, whether I put anything in there or not, I should get a message. All right. And look at the path. Well, that is where it is. It's under home. When we put the decorator in there, it said to circumvent, and home no longer needs to be put in there. All right. So whether I put it in like that, or if I put a number in, I'm still going to get the same message. And that's it. I believe at least all they're trying to show right here. All right. By coming in here and doing that. All right. So it says in the countdown method, change the name of the parameter from ID to num. However, in the route attribute, continue to use ID as the name of the second segment. All right. So in the method itself, come in here and change this. All right. From whatever it said, from ID to num. In fact, I want to make sure I'm doing it right. So in the route attribute, change the second segment from ID to num. All right, so right here, make this num. All right, save and run the program. And run it the quote right way, unquote, meaning that we're going to come in here and say /countdown. And now that says it doesn't work. And let's come in and put in a /countdown /10. All right. And now it worked, kinda. All right. The point is it didn't blow up. All right. But there seems to be a discrepancy here because we called it one thing here and we called it another thing here. Let's see what it says in the book there. All right. It says this should only display the value of 0. That's because the segment name in the route attribute must match the parameter name in the method. All right. And again, that would be tantamount or paramount to coming back in here, okay, where we had set this thing up originally, where we set the route up down in here. And yeah, it's expecting home and it's expecting index. If we put something else in there instead of home, we'd get an error message. All right. So you can see that first, it's not hard to confuse the system. All right. Second of all, you have to be consistent. One thing you may or may not have noticed, though, when I put it in, is that it was not case sensitive because I've been entering countdown this entire time. And this entire time, as I've been entering countdown, I've been putting it in lowercase. All right. We talked about making friendly URLs where if you remember, we were putting in slugs and we were putting in the replace where we were, coming in and putting in the hyphens, etc., and lowercase. All right. But you don't have to do that either. So, all right. So edit the countdown method now again, so that it includes 3 parameters. All right. So we want it to come in there and have a start and an end and then a message. Okay. And if you look in here, you should be able to tell, as they say on the book right here, that the action is required, a start number is required, but again, it should default to 0. An end number is not required, and a message is not required. All right. So again, I'm going to come in here and just change this. So we've got route action, start, and since again it's not in paren or not a question mark afterwards, that is mandatory. But end and ID are not mandatory. All right, so we got start, end, and it shouldn't be ID anymore, I guess. It's message now. All right. And then we want to come in here and change our first line to public I action result countdown int start int end equals 0 string message equals the empty string. And again, notice the fact that those last 2 segments that are in there, neither segment is required. But if we leave them off, we are going to default end to 0. We are going to default message to the empty string. All right. You should always be thinking of doing that. All right. Trying to account, because somebody is going to run your program sooner or later, and either purposely because they're malicious or just not thinking, they're going to do it wrong. All right. It's just going to happen. That's the way life works pretty much. So I'm coming in here and I'm going to take these 2 lines of code that we had in there and I'm going to comment them both out, which of course gives me a bunch of errors, and then put these 2 in. All right, now I goofed up something. We'll fix it right away. Route, doesn't mind that. Public I action, countdown. Whoop, looks like I've got a comma there. That was the first thing. So, no, that should be a comma, not a semicolon. There we go. All right. Now, when you look in here, now instead of having it say int I equal ID, I think we want to change that to start. I don't know if they showed that in here or not. So it says that, let's go to the next page here. It says modify the code in the countdown so it starts counting down at the start parameter and it ends with the end parameter and it displays the message parameter when the countdown is done. Okay. So this would be start. All right. This would be end. And they say in here, put this content string. All right. Well, what we can add to that, they don't say to do it like this, but we do it any way we want. So I'm going to say content string plus equal the message. All right. So if we do a 10 in there again, and we don't give an end value, it should look the same way that it looked before. So let's make sure that indeed that's the case. Oh, didn't do anything. Says the site can't be reached. All right. Let me go back and I want to do that one more time. I don't like the way that even came up. So. All right. What if I just put countdown in then? All right. Let's take a look at what's in the book here. Run the app, enter a URL that calls countdown like that. All right, well, let's do that one first then. 3, 1, and liftoff. And again, it's possible I even screwed it up, but we'll look anyway. Okay, well, that's what it's supposed to say. 3, 2, 1, liftoff. So that's good. All right. Now enter it. Okay, and just put in countdown. I think that's what we did before. And it says it should not be able to find the web page. And that's because we have not given it 2 segments. And as you saw on the previous page, Adam, you must give it these 2 count. Boom. All right. And I can come in and run it again and put in countdown. And I can put in 12, let's say. And boom, it works just fine. There's no message and it ends at 0. Those are the 2 defaults. All right. But if I don't want it to end there, so let's say that I want to put 100 here and I want it to go to 75 and I want to say done for now. You can see done for now. Fine. You can see though that it works. All right. So these are very, very, very simplistic examples. All right. But they're meant to start to try to drill what we're doing with routing into people's heads. And I know this is a simple example. I get that. All right. That's it. So what we will do then, like I said, I didn't think it would last that long today. All right. I don't want to get going in 6-1. I want to make sure we have enough time to finish the entire thing. We might, if we go now, we might have time to finish it by, but we've only really got a half an hour and that would be probably cutting it close. So let's look at again what we'll do tomorrow. Okay. We're going to build this FAQ app. All right. And we're going to build it and we're going to actually build it as though the stuff that goes in here is in a database. So we're going to create about 3 models, then we'll create a context file, and look at this. It says we're going to build a multi-page data-driven app with multiple routes like the one shown below. So what should happen, as you can see right here, is when we bring it up on the screen, it should look like this. So there's 2 classifications there. One that says general, one that says history. All right. The name of our project is all facts, and we can either choose that we want questions about Bootstrap, or we want questions about C#, or we want questions about JavaScript. Right now, all of them are chosen. That's the default. All right. When you bring it up. So notice what is this, etc. So we get questions about all of them. All right. If we change it though, we're going to be able to, and let's look at it on the next page here. So here we've come in and notice under index, we've chosen topic. Right. So the only questions that we're getting in here now are JavaScript questions. All right. So as it says, here we've selected a topic. That's the topics there. Here we've selected a category. All right. And we've selected the history category. So these are history questions, and they are about all of the different topics that we have, all 3 of the topics. All right. Then finally, we can drill down even further and put in both a topic and a category. All right. And if you look on here, what I want you to realize, if you look at the address that's shown in the example right here. All right. Hopefully this makes sense to you that the way we're going to start this up is, well, typically you'd go to home index, right? But if we do put in the word topic, which is just a word that we're putting in, all right, it's expecting that we're going to follow it with either Bootstrap, whatever that is. I don't know if it's BS or Bootstrap or whatever. It's going to expect we're following it with a topic. And if we put in the word category, it's expecting we're going to follow it with a category. All right. So those are our pictures. And if we look, we really don't have many requirements in here. That's it. That's it right here. So when the app starts, it should display a list of all FAQs. So we're going to make an FAQ app. It's pretty simplistic. As it says, the homepage should have a Bootstrap nav bar across the top with links that filter. All right, right up there. By topic. One of the links should clear any filtering and display all. Well, of course, that'll be that one. All right. The homepage should have a Bootstrap list group to the left and a list of FAQ links that filter by category. So they're saying the homepage should look like this. We'll do that. All right. It says here's how the filtering should work. On the initial load, or when the user clicks the all facts link, the app should display all of the FAQs. When a category is selected, it should filter by category. And as it says, after that, if the user clicks a topic, it should filter it again by topic and by category. Or if the user comes in and clicks a topic, all right, the app should filter by topic. After they've done topic, then they can again click category and it should filter by both. All right, so you've got some leeway as far as how you run the program. All right, use custom routes to create the links for filtering. Use static segments to distinguish the topic route from the category route. In other words, the topic route should be prefaced with the word topic. The category should be prefaced with the word category. All right. The FAQ model class should have a primary key that's database. Okay. Topic and model class classes in our model. FAQ and a. All right. Now, so as foreign keys and topic and category classes as those navigation classes that we've talked about. All right. So when we build this tomorrow, we'll do the topic and the category models first. And then underneath that, all right. So we'll build those two first. We'll do a topic.cs, then a category.cs, then we'll do our FAQ.cs. All right. And as it says, the FAQ class should have, again, the foreign key and the related, yes. Then use EF code first and migrations to create the database, build on the model classes. Include seed data for the topics, categories, and FAQs. It says you can copy what's shown above, or you can create your own. And I'll tell you what I'll do. By tomorrow, I will send you all the seed data. All right. Then, as it says, the URLs should be lowercase and have trailing slashes. Well, we already know how to do that. All right. So we will go through all that stuff. Then this is almost, I'm not going to say it's nothing, but there's not much to this. For this project, you will update the from project to use attribute routing. So look at how the address has changed. All right. So our specifications, that's it. Says the URLs for the app should no longer include the home index segment. Here are the URLs that you should use. All right. So I'm not going to read them. You can see them. Finally, as it says on the bottom, to make this work, you will need to apply multiple attributes to the index action method of the home controller, including an attribute for the default route. Be sure to apply the correct or the attributes in the correct order from most specific to least specific. And that's it. So we will do that tomorrow. We are going to do both of those together as soon as class starts. Then, if you take a look at the other thing you're asked to do, this is for the Sports Pro app. For this assignment, it says you will modify the Sports Pro website so that it uses some skills described in Chapter 6. So if you look at the address again here, you will notice that home is not in there. All right. And what that means, try to run your program the way it is without making any changes and put that in there. Technically, if it works, you got nothing else to do. If it comes up and looks like this. Otherwise, as it says in the specs, you may or may not have an about page. So add one that looks like this. This is a Jumbotron. All right. I don't care what color you make it. Just put this text in there. There's not much in there anyway. All right. Then use attribute routing to shorten some of the URLs for the app like it's shown. Now that one, this is going to be the first time we're not doing this together. You're doing this one. All right. So again, for Sunday, all right, for Sunday of this week, all today, because today's Wednesday, right? So you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to Monday, the Chapter 6 case study, which is on the screen right now, the Chapter 6 projects, 6.1 and 6.2, the Chapter 6 written test, and you're going to have to do the updated Hot 1. That will be everything that you're assigned for this week. And I can already tell you for next week, it'll be the same stuff, but Chapter 7 and your Hot number 3 is what it'll be due next week. Because you may or may not agree with this, but after next week, we're 4 weeks into the semester, okay? And we'll be 7 chapters into the book. I couldn't really ask for much more than that, all right? I will tell you that 8, 9, and 10, or 8 and 9 rather, get a little hairier, all right? And 8 and 9 get a little hairier, and 10, 11, and 12 are very database centric. But again, if we can do in the next few weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, if we can get to that point, we're doing great. All right. So please go in and look at this. You don't have to do it. We'll do it together. But, if you want to start doing something on your own, go through and start doing this one. All right. I will put down again what your homework is, and I will be sending you out. So this whole lecture here is only about 55 minutes long. But I will put that out there, all right, in just a few minutes, and I will put down what your homework will be for this weekend. All right. Am I right, Grant, in assuming you don't have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Then I will talk to you tomorrow at 12:05. See you then.
See you then.